So Razer just came out of nowhere and gave us possibly the best ergo mouse to come out this year, with this, the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed. Even though it does share the Hyperspeed name, when compared to the other Hyperspeed mice offered, it just feels like it shouldn't share that name at all. So what's different about this Deathadder when compared to the other versions we have seen released over the past year or two? Well, in terms of specs, a couple things have changed between the Pro and the Hyperspeed. The sensor in this mouse is using the Focus X sensor that goes up to 26,000 dpi and not 30,000 dpi like we saw on the Deathadder V3 Pro. The switches are still the exact same. It's still using the Gen 3 opticals. It also got a weight reduction due to a smaller size, 63 grams on the Deathadder V3 Pro, and then 55 grams on the new Hyperspeed Deathadder. The Hyperspeed is also $50 less than the Deathadder V3 Pro without the optional hyperpolling dongle. Even though the new Deathadder shares that Hyperspeed name, the mouse doesn't need physical AA batteries to function like we saw on the Viper V3 Hyperspeed. It has a proper internal battery with a USB-C port at the front, so it functions just like every other mainstream wireless mouse. To be expected on these newer Razer mice releases, the quality on this mouse is top notch. No flexing or creaking is present anywhere on this mouse, and overall the quality of the shells just built like a tank. The optical clicks on this mouse felt really good, quite tactical but not the lightest when compared to other plastic mice with opticals like the Pulsar X-Lite V3, but overall I prefer the clicks in the Viper V3 Hyperspeed just because they feel a bit more substantial and crispier, and it's probably one of the better optical switch implementations I have felt for a plastic mouse. The feel of the side buttons are great as well, really spammable and don't feel cheap in any way, practically no post or pre-travel at all. The scroll wheel also felt really good, not too light or too heavy, and each step is very nicely defined, and the scroll wheel click is also not too light or too heavy. The coating is a soft touch coating we saw introduced a while back. As the name suggests, it is a soft rubbery coating that does take a while to get a decent grip from it. Not really my favorite coating, as for people with drier hands, I can definitely see the coating being an issue and not providing enough of a grip. The stock skates that come pre-installed on this mouse are just okay. I found them to be pretty scratchy on glass pads and slow on cloth pads. Would really just recommend picking up some aftermarket skates because the stock skates are just meh. On paper, the sensor might be worse when compared to something like the Viper V3 Pro, but in real world actual use, they perform pretty much the exact same. Of course, you are limited at only 1000 Hz right out of the box, but you can purchase the additional dongle to match the 8000 Hz that the Viper V3 Pro comes right out of the box with. But still, at 1000 Hz, the performance you get out of this mouse and sensor are top notch. Of course, you are not getting the absolute lowest latency the mouse can provide at 1000 Hz, but at the same time, who really cares if you are lowering the latency by a number that isn't even detectable by a human being? With this mouse, Razer has introduced two new features that are also present on the Viper V3 Pro as well: the rotation tool and dynamic sensitivity. In short, the rotation tool changes the angle the sensor is reading the horizontal axis, which is a great tool especially for people that angle their mouse while they play games. So for example, if you hold your mouse at a slight angle, causing your cursor or aiming game to be slightly sloping up or down, you can correct that using this to make it perfectly aligned and centered. The second feature, dynamic sensitivity, is a bit more interesting. If you have ever tried things like Raw Excel or similar mouse acceleration programs, then this is nothing new. In short, what those programs try to achieve is changing your sensitivity based on a set graph. So for example, if you want your sense to jump to a higher value when you swipe faster, or you want it to naturally climb up as you swipe, you can do things like that with Raw Excel. But now Razer is introducing their own version of it and calling it dynamic sensitivity. Instead of changing your Windows sense through a driver like Raw Excel, Razer's approach is to dynamically change the DPI of your mouse depending on what you set your curve to be. Razer includes 4 different profiles with a custom profile as well, so you can fine tune the curve inside of Synapse 3. While I do see Raw Excel as kind of being a gimmick, I do give props to Razer for adding such a niche feature to their mice. So one of the changes that Razer have made to the Hyperspeed coming from the Pro Deathadder is making the mouse smaller in size and lighter as well. Even though the differences on elo shapes don't really show that much of a difference, the hand feel between these two mice is completely different. After using the Hyperspeed for a while and going back to the normal size Deathadder, it pretty much feels like I am holding a brick. The Hyperspeed Deathadder is pretty much 5 to 10% smaller, which doesn't seem a lot, but in hand it's a pretty dramatic difference. The mouse is shorter, not as tall and not as wide, adding all up to a Deathadder V3 that is way more manageable for a person like me with smaller hands. I have smaller hands measuring in at 16.5 by 9 centimeters, and the Hyperspeed Deathadder is pretty much perfect for me. It's one of those few mice where they instantly clicked to me and I was performing really good on it. For $100, I don't really see any other ergo mouse that is really worth picking up, especially since it's going to be readily available in big box stores like Walmart and Best Buy. If you are someone that's actively looking for a new mouse to fill in that small ergo mouse position that also features great quality, a great sensor, and just overall is pretty much perfect, then I would just go out and pick this up.